Now, ever since the attack on October the 7th, the Hamas has been in overdrive with propaganda videos, basically trying to flaunt their capabilities. Since I began this show on the topic of how Iran has been funding and arming Hamas, this particular video, it's a propaganda video by Hamas, let me make that very clear. And in normal course, we wouldn't want to play any propaganda, but I wanted to show you clips of this video because it really reveals something very important. What you're seeing here is the Hamas terrorist group pulling up water pipes for sanitation and water supply in the Gaza Strip and fabricating them into lethal rockets, the very rockets that have been fired by the Hamas into Israeli territories. They're called the Qassam rockets. Would you believe it? Water pipes, civilian sanitation water pipes of the kind that bring water to villages and towns and cities all over the world, including our own here in India, pulled up from the ground illegally by Hamas and then using know-how from where? Of course, from Iran, because Iran is a country that has done rocket technology for a very long time. They've basically taught, I'm simplifying it of course, but they've given Hamas the know-how to manufacture these rockets in the southern part of the Gaza Strip. And that's the reason why this particular video is so telling. The Hamas terror group taking away the assets required for the Palestinian people, depriving them of infrastructure required for water supply, where there is no water right now, and then using them for offensive purposes. Now remember, this is not to say that Israel is not playing a role in the lethal blockade that is leaving Gaza hungry and thirsty. But this video that Hamas was hoping would be a depiction of its lethal effects and its lethal know-how and innovation using everyday objects is really proof of how it steals from the Palestinian people in order to murder the Israelis. Now, the United States Navy's mightiest symbol of power projection, an American military might, has just entered the Mediterranean waters off the coast of Israel and Gaza. Viewer, you already know what I'm talking about. A gargantuan symbol of solidarity that President Joe Biden announced just hours after the October 7th Hamas terror attack in Israel. The USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier is the biggest warship ever constructed. I wanted to explain why such an enormous ship with its carrier battle group comprising destroyers, cruisers and submarines, all of them with land attack missiles and enough weaponry to invade a small country, has been deployed just off the coast of Israel in the Mediterranean Sea. You're thinking surely Israel doesn't need military assistance in its campaign to destroy the Hamas in Gaza. After all, even a well-armed Hamas is no match for the Israeli Defense Forces, right? Well, there's a reason why this ship has arrived off the coast of Israel. Let me explain. First off, the USS Gerald Ford carrier battle group is obviously not just a symbol, even though what it signals and symbolizes is very much as significant as what it can do if push comes to shove and if it's provoked. The signal the US is sending out is that America not only stands firmly with Israel, but that it is fully willing to enter the fight if the war does expand, and if the Hamas's well-known patrons, including countries like Iran that we're talking about, even think of any direct provocations in this war. The USS Gerald Ford carries a large number of combat aircraft capable of long-range strikes and assisting Israel in targeting Hamas sites if necessary. Right now that's not on the cards, but if necessary, the US will not think twice in putting the assets on board this ship into the fight. Now, this is not likely to happen in the current Gaza operations, but concerns over this conflict widening to other parts of West Asia are actually the bigger concern right now. Israel's airstrikes yesterday on Syria have signaled that things could well be poised to move beyond just a contained Israel-Gaza affair. In the small chance that this becomes a wider regional conflict, the US, with this ship, will be positioned to respond very quickly with a carrier battle group of this kind in the Mediterranean Sea. It's basically like a floating military base. It has aircraft, it's got submarines, it's got long-range land attack missiles, it's got air defense systems. It's basically a floating military base that can be taken from one place to the other. Now, carrier battle groups of this kind have participated in operations around the world, but as a wise person once said, the true strength in such formidably large force is if it never needs to be used. And that's the whole point of the deployment, to dissuade, to deter, and hopefully contain this conflict. And now I want to go straight across to India. Today is Gaurav Sawant, who's been reporting from the front lines in Ashkelon, Sderot, and other parts of the front line with Gaza. Gaurav, in just a few minutes from now, I'm going to be playing out your incredible report. It's the most watched report from the front lines of the huge column of armor from Israel rolling towards Gaza, which basically indicates a ground invasion is in the pipeline. Many movements happening there. But Gaurav, I'll let your report do the talking about that. What I wanted to ask you more about was the sense you're getting from the ground about whether this conflict could expand. You're on the ground, you're seeing the tactical fighting taking place, but the USS Gerald R. Ford is off the coast, not very far away from where you are right now. Strikes have happened in Syria as well. Are you getting the sense this could expand, Gaurav?
Shiv, being forewarned is being forearmed, and that's a old military saying. It's proving to be true here. Now, right now, Israel has been forewarned that there could be action even on the northern front. So while the southern front, where we are, has been adequately, well stocked up, deployment done, resources in place, it's the northern front where a lot of deployment and resources are being put in place even as we speak. There's a lot of convoy movement that's happening, a lot of civilian trucks also carrying men and material both to the south and to the north, because sooner than later there will be an expansion. The moment the Israeli ground forces go into the Hamas controlled Gaza territory, Gaza Strip, other parties will get activated. And that is why, as you rightly pointed out, the USS Gerald Ford being here with a formidable flotilla with its fighter jets and assets. The aim is to deter, but then it's only a sane mind that would get deterred. There are all those elements who would massacre 1,200 plus civilians are not sane minds, and they would resort to perhaps more insanity, and you cannot counter insanity by being logical. So that's exactly what Israel has learned from this terror attack. We were with some army officers who have been a part of that very extensive exercise to carry out one, assessment of security, two, investigation of this case, because a very solid case is going to be built up internationally against Hamas to shame those who continue to either directly or overtly or covertly support the Hamas, or do that monkey balancing about Hamas also having a right to exist because they're elected by the Palestinians in Gaza Strip. Here, every dead body of the victim has been photographed, fingerprinted, DNA samples taken, how they were killed, how young women were raped before they were killed. All of that is being documented. Internationally, people are being called, shown everything, every bit of evidence. How toddlers had their heads chopped off is something that coroners here are not only documenting, but also making an international report for the world to see. That hatred of Hamas, it was there for all to see. That again, that report that you pointed out, water pipes. If people are crying about water not going to the Palestinian territory, those pipes were removed by who? By Hamas. All of that is being pointed out, Shiv, and perhaps the ground operations will begin in some time from now, and the war only is likely to expand even to the northern front sooner than later.